As I said in the last session, we live in uncertain times. But one thing is sure, that the pandemic is impelling us to make a better use of our technical resources. We will step out of our homes. We are just beginning to do so here in India, and we will return to our outdoor life. But we will carry with us the discovery of a new virtual space, well exemplified in our daily meetings through video conferencing and in this kind of webinars. And we want to take full advantage of this tool to bring closer two areas of the world, the Hispanic speaking world and India, that they have been separated by history, but that today are coming together for several reasons. And they are discovering, there is a mutual discovery between Spanish speaking countries and India. As I said also last time, uncertainty is the sign of our time. But I would like another factor, and that's hope. These are uncertain times, but I think there are also times full of hope. Hope in the ability of the human species to extract a lesson from difficult times. And what lesson we can learn from this pandemic? I hope we will learn how to make a better use of both our material resources and of our human resources. That is to say, how to improve human relations between individuals and group of individuals. And also how to improve international and diplomatic relations between countries to fight our common enemy, which is the coronavirus. It is in this spirit that we are organizing this webinar. And today, for me, it's a great pleasure to introduce His Excellency, the Ambassador of Chile in India, Mr. Juan Angulo. Thanks for being here, Ambassador. I would like to give a brief presentation of our Ambassador from Chile. Juan Angulo, he's a career diplomat. He's an economist from the University of Chile, and he obtained the Faculty of Economics and Administrative Science Prize to the best graduate student of his class. He graduated also from the Andrés Bello Diplomatic Academy from Chile, and completed his postgraduate studies in public management at the National School of Administration in the capital of France, Paris. In his diplomatic career, he has worked abroad in the embassies of Chile in Denmark, in France, in the Consulate General of Chile in Amsterdam, in the Mission of Chile to the European Union, an embassy in Belgium, and he was Deputy Chief of Mission in Brussels and Paris. So you've been a long time in Europe, Ambassador, and I think you know very well our whole continent. But he also in Chile, he held functions as the General Directorate of International Economic Relations. He also has been Deputy Director of the Directorate of European Affairs. And just before, I think, coming to India, and correct me if I am wrong, he was Deputy Director of the Directorate for Environment and Ocean Affairs. And he led delegations of Chile to the meetings of the United Nations Framework Conventions on Climate Change. So I think this is a very interesting issue, because I think you know very well the question regarding climatic change, and I think that will also interest our audience. So without delaying it no more, I would like, to ask you the first question of this meeting. And we begin always making a little bit of history. And I am asking you, how old are the diplomatic relations between India and Chile? It is true that Juan Marín, acting as a special envoy to the government of Chile, was the only Latin American representative to participate in the ceremony of independence of India in August 1947. When did Chile open its embassy in India and vice versa? So you have the floor, Ambassador. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Oscar. Indeed, it's a pleasure for me to be here with you this evening. Thank you very much for the presence of everybody, the time they have for listening to us today. Of course, this is a very special time for us. These webinars are a very useful tool to also the relationships between countries and people. Going directly to your question, yes, we have the privilege We had here a representative in 1947, Mr. Juan Marin, as you mentioned. He is a very interesting diplomat and writer from Chile. He was the only Latin American representative in the ceremonies of independence in 1947. And later, 2 years later, he was chargé d'affaires. So we opened our embassy here in 1949. So we are last year we were celebrating the 70th anniversary of relationships between India and Chile. And the first embassy with an ambassador properly was in 1952. Also another writer, Mr. Miguel Serrano. And there are several writers who have been sent to India in the 60s, even the 70s, and all they have written books or stories about their experience here. Talking about history,
just in fact, for a minute. This is a very interesting point, Ambassador, no? Because I think we don't know that there were, a group of Chilean writers from the beginning of the 20th century that came to India, spent some time here. They wrote about India, and we don't know what is the image of India that they got from these writings, no? And I don't know if you could elaborate a little bit on these early Chilean writers in India, because we know very little about that.
Yes, well, the well-known in the 1908 we had a consul in Kolkata, Augusto Dalmar, who was also a writer, and he won the National Prize of Literature in the 40s. But I just wanted to mention that we could say that this year was 170 years of diplomatic relationships. But even before that, just after the independence of Chile, we had already some contacts between ports in Valparaiso and Kolkata again. So we can say that in 19 last year, we had almost 200 years of diplomatic of commercial relations between India and Chile, with these ships coming from Valparaiso in 1819. And I know you are a very fan of books. I just wanted to show you a book. I don't know if you can see that. It's called La India Eterna. Which is a book written by Mr. Juan Marin.
Okay, I don't know if we have it.
It's a very interesting book. I will. It's in Spanish, huh? I don't know if you have it on your library, but I will let you know. It's a very interesting book, and there is a lot of imagination on Chilean writers about India, about what India represents and how they see this country with their eyes.
Wow, that's very interesting, Ambassador. And I would like to invite the students, because there are many students here, to do some research on this topic, because I think we know very little, that we have all this group of Chilean writers writing about India so early, no?
Yes,
but anyway.
Yes, definitely.
Yes, when did then, you say that it was early in 49, no? Then that you opened your embassy here.
Yes.
Yes. Before going to the next question, I would like, we have already a question from one of our participants in this, from the public.
Yes.
And it is a question relating diplomacy, of course, which I think you will be happy to take it. It's from, and I am saying to all the public here assisting to this webinar that please, if you want to send a question via chat, tell your name, tell the place where you are sending this question from, and because that's very important. So this question is from Anil Shankar. He's a chartered accountant and a student at the Instituto Cervantes of New Delhi, and he's asking what is Chile's position on expansion of the United Nations Security Council, specifically in regard to India being a permanent member of the reformed Security Council, keeping in view the geopolitical realities of today?
Yes, no, we have a very clear position on that. But you know, both countries, Chile and India, we share a lot of common points now. And the other aspects of the international agenda. We support the participation, the position of India as as a permanent member of the Security Council. We think that that would be a better representation of what was the Security Council now, and not that was the representation of at the end of World War II. So we support clearly the presence of India as a permanent member of the Security Council. In fact, we can say that we support both when Chile has been a candidate to the Security Council. We also received from India, and when India has been also as a non-permanent member of the Security Council, we have been also supporting India's position. So we have absolutely support to India's position, and that is in the middle of what are we sharing as countries, values, fight against terrorism, for strength of multilateralism, you know, all this common for promotion of democracy, human rights, fight against corruption, etc. So we are very close with India's position in several topics, and in this particular one, we are supporting the position of India, of course.
Well, that's very good. And as I said earlier, I think the special envoy Juan Marin was the only Latin American representative to participate in the ceremony of independence India, which is quite an outstanding thing. Right. But let's proceed further. On the other way, you know, there is no country in the world farther away from India than Chile, it is said. I don't know if this is really true, but you are really at the end of this planet Earth. But right. Despite of that, in the last decades, we have seen a surge in the relations between India and Chile, especially in foreign trade. The renewal in 2016 of the India and Chile Preferential Trade Agreement, and the visits of Michelle Bachelet in 2005, 2009. You had also the Indian President Pratibha Patil in 2008, and yes. The recent visit of the President of India, Shri Ram Nath Kovind. Can you elaborate a little bit on the state of relations between India?
Yeah, of course. In the starting with mentioned the agreement, we are very happy of being having the privilege of being the country in Latin America with a bilateral agreement with India in terms of trade. That was signed in 2006. And it was deepened first time in 2017. And hopefully we, since a couple of years, we have been trying to deepen this agreement. We have seen an increase in commerce and trade between the two countries, which is around now $2 billion. We had last year the first meeting of the joint committee of the administration of the agreement, and the idea there was to deepen the agreement. In August last year, we had the terms of reference signed, and at the end of the year, in December, we had the first meeting, the first round of the new deepening of the expansion of the agreement. We are trying to be ambitious in this. With a bilateral agreement with India. We know that other countries are in the same path, and we absolutely agree with that. We are trying to be ambitious and increase the baskets of goods to be considered in the agreement, but also to deepen the amount of preferences we have in every of the goods. The agreement is an agreement only right now. It's only an agreement considering goods. And we are trying to include also other chapters as services or investments. And both countries have agreed to subjects in separate tracks. And we are happy that well, we had already the second expansion, the first round of the second expansion last year, and of course, well, we were planning to have the second round in March last, but the COVID pandemic altered that. In the other way, in the more political part, we are also very happy that in the recent talks between our two leaders, Prime Minister Modi and President Piñera, they met at the end of 2018, the borders of the G20, but also last year they met twice. They met once in Japan, also in the margins of the G20, but also at the G7 in Biarritz, in Paris, in France. So they had contacts at the highest level. Our ministers of foreign affairs met already also in September in New York, and we were planning to have the first joint committee in March this year, but unfortunately, again, that was postponed by the COVID crisis. So we are in a very good mood in political and commercial ties with India. We have an agenda which is much more than just trade, of course. We are trying to develop the ties in for instance, lithium, which is very important for India, very important for Chile. We are trying to add added value to the extraction of lithium, and India is trying to, this electrical vehicles having batteries. So it is a win-win situation. We are trying also to develop ties in the agricultural area. You may know that Chile was also the first to open an agricultural attaché office from Latin America in some 10 years ago, 15 years ago. So we have a long tradition of cooperation in this area. We consider that we could have again a win-win situation between both sectors in agriculture. We have also agreements on the bulk drugs between the Standard Trade Corporation of India and the Chilean Senabas. We are also doing things together in the field of persons with disabilities, which is also a very inclusive aspect. So we have at least 6, 7 subjects of agenda, which are different than just commerce. So I wanted to emphasize that the bilateral agenda is trying to be developed in different ways and parallel ways.
It's a little problem with connection, perhaps, sometimes, but anyway, we are managing still. Well, I think what you said, it's answering the questions that I have here. One of the questions that I had from Sattar Alam, Aligarh Muslim University. He was asking about the commercial relations between India and Chile.
Okay.
And I think you've been answering that quite well. But I would like to take now another questions. We have questions are coming, but I am ordering them according to different subjects, no? And another interesting question in this section of the talk is from Prajakta Vide from Mumbai. And she's a Spanish teacher and a student of international relations. And he's asking you, Ambassador, and he would like to know the opinion over a shift in Indian diplomacy with Latin America in the recent past. He's referring a shift in the. So, what do you think about that? There has been a shift. What is the state of Indian diplomacy with Latin America in general and Chile in particular in the last years?
Well, we feel that India has a different interests in the world. And we are, as you mentioned at the beginning, one of the farthest away regions in the world. So we have to try very hard to attract the Indian interest in our region. And of course, we have to counterbalance the distance and the difficulties sometimes between difficulties linked to the distance and the lack of direct flights, for instance, or direct shipping lines. So sometimes it's difficult, and we are trying to focus on investments, on more trade and over to people connections, which is part that we should talk later perhaps. It is something interesting because India is a very well known country in that part of the world. There are several, if you like, Indian cultural realities that are of interest for the people in Chile and also in the rest of Latin America. We have heard from the Minister of Foreign Affairs that the focus will be in our region, and we're looking forward for that. We would like very much to receive more visits and to try and to bring more of our politicians and leaders here. You mentioned that we had a visit of President Michelle Bachelet, but she was visiting here in 2009. In 2005 was President Ricardo Lagos, who made the first visit of a Chilean president to India.
Okay. So there is a long relation with India. There are many questions coming. I'm trying to order them a little bit, you know. And before going to the next to the COVID, which everybody has a lot of interest in what's happening there too, also in India, I would like to put one question regarding from Palak, Delhi, student of international relations and a student of Spanish, and saying, despite the geographical differences, India and Latin America are tied by a shared history of colonialism. Does that makes the relations between Chile and India easier, sharing this colonial past?
Yeah, well, that is it is true that we share some
Having
but it is true that the historical realities are a little bit different. We had this you know, if you like, fight for independence years ago. We already have celebrated our bicentennial of independence. So even if there are some particular commonalities, I would say that we are every country in the region, and also India is facing different steps, stage of if you like, maturity in terms of the past, the colonial past. And of course, we share some in the recent history of the world. We have shared some ideas like in the 50s and 60s with all these non-aligned movements and so on. So I think Latin America was present there, but not that much.
Okay.
But not very enthusiastically, I would say.
And let's take another question regarding the diplomacy. No? This is from Prajakta Bid from Mumbai, Spanish teacher and a student of international relations. He said, I would like to know your opinion over a shift in Indian diplomacy with Latin America in the recent past.
Sorry, I didn't get it. Your opinion about what?
I would like to know your opinion over a shift in Indian diplomacy with Latin America in the recent past.
We have received a visit of the president of India. He went to Bolivia and Chile this year, and the vice president went to Paraguay, I think, Costa Rica also. Last year, and before that, we had the visit of president and vice president to other countries in the region. So I think India has been very smartly having a presence there. That is without considering, of course, the special relationship with Brazil in the framework of BRICS, which is a different dimension. But India has been trying to be present in our region, and of course, in some countries of the region, there is a huge presence of Indian origin people, which also gives a particular dimension to that. But to boost trade and investments, and our region is very interesting from that point of view.
Very good. I will take one last question regarding diplomacy, and then we will move to the COVID crisis, because we had several questions regarding that, and it was also in our. But I take one last question regarding diplomacy. This is from Palak, Delhi student of Indian International Relations, and it says, despite the geographical difference, India and Latin America are tied by a shared history of colonialism. Does that affect or ease relations between Chile and India?
I think that the question was already there. Huh?
Similar, yeah. Okay, we take it for answer in the last question. You're right. And let's move now to the COVID crisis, no? How is Chile dealing with the present COVID-19 crisis? And there is any scope for using this to intensify relations with India? This is
yes,
my own.
Of course. Well, the numbers in Chile, just to give an idea, the last numbers I got it from today is 110,000 plus cases of COVID-19, and with a number of deaths of 1,275, which gives a fatality rate of around 1%. We are dealing with this crisis. It's affecting us very, very strongly, very complicated. Economic crisis, the economic impact is very high. We have just having last numbers in the indexes of economic activity and productivity. It is less than minus 10%, for instance. Unemployment has been increasing. It is now reaching 2 digits, 9 something percent. We have in the agricultural sector a huge impact, and also a huge impact in our commercial. Last numbers talk about minus 10% in trade, in commerce and exportation of imports. So it is a panorama that it is not very different from other parts of the world, and we are trying to. This is a multi-dynamic, multi-dimensional problem. There is an economic problem, there is a sanitary problem, a humanitarian problem, and we have also a lot of people from countries, and then they cannot enter again to the countries. So it is affecting us very, very heavily, and the response has been also according to the degree of the crisis. We are trying, of course, to let's say ministerial level, trying to identify where are the weaknesses in the supply chains to fill the gaps, and trying to not having any problems in the supply of drugs and medicines or equipment for treatment at hospitals. In that, we think that we have a good opportunity with India in the bilateral part. And as I mentioned just before, we have this agreement between the Standard Trading Corporation of India and the Senabas in Chile, and we have a look on what will be the providers for different things, on different products for the Chilean market and the French Chilean needs on this. We are also trying to have a cooperation in the development of vaccine with Chilean institutions and Indian institutions, and we are in the middle of exchanging information about that also. So, of course, crisis gives also always an opportunity a door to opportunities, and we have to seize these opportunities in order to try to improve the situation of both people.
Good. There are. I think you have answered. I would like to mention also the names of the students who are asking. Even if you have already answered, because there are general questions about the COVID, but we had this question from Lavina Cargual, asking how Chile was coping with the crisis, of course, but you already answered that. We have also this student from Trivandrum, from Kerala, and asking also, and this perhaps you can still answer it, how COVID is affecting the Indian community in Chile. Or let's talk in general about the Indian community, how strong it is, and what can you say?
Yes, of course. Well, we could mention. Yeah, well, the Indian community in Chile is, for instance, it's small. It's more or less 3,000 people in all the country. There is a huge part of that group which is from Sindhi origin, and a lot of the Sindhi families arrived many years ago. I could say at the beginning of the 20th century. They are focused in the north of Chile, in Iquique, where there is also a small Sikh community. They're in Santiago in the south, and in a city called Punta Arenas, which is they are very well integrated into the Chilean society. From those 3,000, our estimation is that half have also Chilean nationality. But in terms of numbers, it is not as important as in other countries. And of course, the business they are running are surely they are affected by the corona crisis situation. And we hope that well, all this will go quickly. And I suppose that also the people in Iquique, which is a free port, are also suffering from the restrictions in exports and imports. Yeah. But it is a small community, but very well integrated, I would say.
Okay. It's very old there.
Our records indicates that they arrived in the beginning of the 20th century, especially in Punta Arenas, the 1900s, something like that.
Very good, very good. I have many questions. Yes.
Yeah?
Okay. Yes. I have many questions from the students, and of course they're interested in different questions regarding education, obviously,
Right.
But before you already answered the question about the Indian community in Chile, and before taking some more questions from the audience, I will say, is there an interest for Indian culture in Chile?
Yeah, I could say Indian culture is well known in Chile. I would say, apart from of course yoga and Ayurveda and all the schools of yoga, and people very much interested in discovering what yoga is, etc., etc. Which is, by the way, a very good job that the Indian diplomacy has been done in the past years. These yoga days and these things are very good. There are also people interested in, for instance, Bollywood films, Indian cuisine, for instance. You may know that Chile it is not a country where you eat spicy food. So a lot of restaurants, new restaurants in India, Indian restaurants in Chile, in Santiago and in other parts of Chile, are now showing a little bit to the Chileans what the real taste of Indian cuisine is. So there is an interest in Indian culture. But again, the difficulty is the distance and the reality of doing people coming here to India and internet, which is far away. It is costly not only in terms of financially cost money, but also time, because it is for a Chilean, India is not a destination for a weekend, for instance. Either for an Indian, is you go there for a week or 2 weeks, enjoy some wines. I mean, tourism in general, but not you cannot go as you were here for a weekend, you know.
How long
So
it takes to reach India to reach Chile from India?
yeah, well, normally normal days, I normally is 30 hours more or less. Because as you mentioned at the beginning, we are very far away and we are in the middle. We are the west, or either you go to the west or the east. You have to travel the half of the world. And one of the best ways is to go for via any major European city, and then a direct flight for Santiago. But
there is a direct flight, Santiago Delhi.
More or less.
Sorry, there is a direct flight, Santiago Delhi?
No. There's no direct flight, but you can make direct, for instance, Delhi to any major European capital, and then from then they will have direct flights to Santiago. So two huge direct flights, and then the time in between makes more or less 30 hours trip, which is quite quite long.
Thanks, Jan. Many questions here piling up, you know, in the chat. I will try to put some order to them, you know, because it's getting. And
I will try to answer questions.
Yes, but I will just for you to answer very quickly, because this is big, it's the topic of the COVID again. It's from Ladina, and if you can give a quick answer, because as you know, Chilean wine is very popular in India. And Lavina says, what has been the impact of the COVID crisis on the Chilean wine industry?
Well, for the time being, I could say that we haven't had a huge impact yet. So production is more or less, of course, with all the adaptations in the industry. Production has been steady. Have huge losses in the markets, but again, we have to consider what would happen in a couple of months, because we are in the beginning of the impact. So short answer, not very much, but we have to be very cautious to see how we'll be developing in the next month.
Okay, very good. Let me now take some questions regarding education, because of us, and there are several people here. I have Pallavi Narayan. I think she's based in Delhi. She's been living in Singapore, and she had already a lot of relations with the Embassy of Chile in Singapore, and she has visited Chile several times.
Very good.
For a conference on challenge of translation at the Universidad of Chile. And she has translated the Chilean poet Jonathan Urqueta Briones. So the question is how we can build on literary and cultural connections between Chile and India on a larger scale. How we can build on literary and cultural relations between India and Chile on a larger scale. Of course, we all know, and especially here the older generation knows, that Neruda has been one of the most popular writers in India since long time. Neruda had a very strong presence here, no? So what do you think about the literary and cultural connection between India and Chile?
Well, I think we have to build from the past and to project for the future. And I'm saying that because I've been 3 times here, and he was also working very close in Colombo and in Rangoon. He was working as consul of Chile. He visited 3 times the country, and in Bengal is especially well known. For instance, what we could do is we did that some years ago. We participated actively in the fair, the literary fair in Kolkata. We had there some participants, some writers coming from Chile. Raúl Zurita came here, for instance, and we launched a couple of books of him. And we have to explore the possibility of people coming from Chile, for instance, to fairs in India, in Jaipur, for instance. Last year, we made a project, a very interesting project, we launched 4 books for children written by Chilean authors. We translated that into Hindi, and we distribute into the India, in Delhi. We launched that in a school in Delhi last year. And we had the support of the ICCR, the Indian Council for Cultural Relations. The director was there with us, so it was very, very good. And I think we have to promote this kind of activities. If the person who posed the question would like to contact us directly, please do that. We are more than happy to explore what we could do. We have a special section at the embassy. So please, I am absolutely available to receive any particular query. Don't hesitate to contact us directly.
Very good, Ambassador, because you just answered a question by Siddharth, which I didn't pass to you, but you answered it very well, because Siddharth from Delhi was asking if the embassy is interested in helping the publication of translated works of Chile writers from Spanish to English, Hindi. So you already answered that. Thank you very much for that.
We have in stock some books that we could distribute already. So please, the person who have asked this question, again, we can do something together, please.
Good. I only want to tell you that we have a similar question which you already partially answered. And this is from Malasika. She's a teacher of Spanish at Doon University in Dehradun. And she's been working on a research project for 5 years, sponsored by the Indian Council of Social Science Research in India, titled India and Latin American Imagination. And she already knew about Miguel Serrano, Augusto Del Mar, and well, she wanted you to throw some light. You already did that. We won't now dwell, but I wanted to just to tell about this person interested. Myself, you know, I would be very happy to follow this line in future activities once, you know, the virus allows us to.
Yes, of course.
And I invite, you know, Malasika and all the students interested in doing some research in these Chilean writers, you know, of the beginning of the 20th century, because I think we can find some very interesting light about the image of India at that time in Chile, no?
Yes, I could also mention that Julio Barrenechea was also an ambassador here in the 60s, and he wrote also something about India with Impressions as a poetry book, I think. And in the 70s, we received a visit of another writer who wrote also some impressions about his visit to India. Francisco Coloane, it's a well-known Chilean writer also.
Very good, very good. And I'm taking now another question related to culture. I have many questions here. I am really overburdened with questions from the students and from the participants, which is very good. It shows, you know, that they're really interested about Chile. And this is from Megna. She's a Spanish instructor at Manipal. And she's a student of European Studies, Hispanic Studies, with specialization in culture and society. And it was also one of my questions, as you know. What is the perception of India in Chile?
The perception of India in Chile?
Yes. How India is seen in Chile?
Well, no, as I mentioned to you before, there are several aspects of Indian culture who are present in Chile. Through those aspects, Chilean people have an idea. Of course, everybody knows about the history of India. Mahatma Gandhi is a very important, a very well person in Chile, I would say. There are at least 3 monuments of Gandhi in Santiago. And this year we celebrated the 150th anniversary of him. So the perception of India is an ongoing building up perception, in the sense that more and more people are aware of India in the world stage, and also with developing the transformation and the people are taking are taking are being aware of what India will represent for the future. There is a very well vision of all experts, for instance, in ICT, technologies of information, for instance. A lot of Indian people, young Indian people, have been going to Santiago, to other cities in the country, to work and to develop ideas and projects in this field. And of course, there is a common sense, common idea that in a way India is producing a lot of brains for the world, and all over the world, particularly in Chile.
Very good, very good. And we'll take a few more questions on culture. This is a very specific question. In which organization, this is from Devyani Anand from Mumbai. Mm-hmm. She's asking, which organization should an Indian look if she wants to work on an Indo-Chilean collaboration?
Well, that depends a lot of what will be the area of action. If you are looking, for instance, just an example, if you are looking for developing an idea, for instance, we have in Chile a very good established program called Startup Chile, which gives funds for people, young people interested in developing ideas. It's around $30,000 US. It's a working program since 6 years ago. We are in the second phase of that. A lot of Indians have been there for this. So in that case, it would be a Startup Chile, the institution to contact. If you are looking for establishing a joint venture in other fields, well, either the Embassy of India in Chile will help you. We can help you, but we should have a more concrete idea of what would be the particular area of interest. There are a lot of exchange students, programs or a doctoral program, or after graduate programs to be done in Chile.
But is the knowledge of Spanish necessary in that case for Chilean universities, or you do the teaching in English also? What is or Spanish is compulsory?
There are programs which are in English, and other programs, the majority are in Spanish. So it is a good way with incentive for people to learn Spanish, because we can have a huge variety of opportunities there.
This is a question that is in all the students' mind all over the world. If a student goes there, he has any chance to do some side work to help financing his studies in Chile?
Yes, that depends on the visa. We have a lot of agreements of countries, and in which agreements it is said that the students, the young people, go there and they can have a job and also have a study or develop some projects or different kinds of activities. We should explore in the bilateral field this kind of possibility, because we don't have yet with India. But I think that is one of it is on in the to-do list for the embassy to see if we develop this, because it would be again a win-win situation. There is a lot of people interested in learning English in Chile, but I'm sure that for a lot of Indian young people, they see 100 million Spanish-speaking people all over the world. It is also a huge field of opportunities, and to discover new cultures, and also to develop the particular professional vision they could have. So hopefully we will work on that, and that's one of the tasks for the embassy. But again, we have to continue trying to develop these people-to-people relationships.
Good, very good. And well, we in part you answered that, but I would like to put now a question by a citizen from Chile. Right? It's also attending this webinar. She's Marieto Portus. She's working with us at the Cervantes. She's a teacher with us, collaborating with us here at the Cervantes, because we know at the Cervantes we try to have all the accents of Spanish. We have both Spanish teachers and teachers from Latin America, from Chile, Argentina, from almost all Peru, from all the countries, no? And you already, he says, you know, he's asking about cultural exchange programs between India and Chile, no, especially interchange of students, and I think that affects her directly. What do you have to say about that? There is any ongoing program about the changing students?
Yes, well, we are trying to develop as much as possible the university to university contacts, because all these bachelor's programs are not centralized, at least in the case of Chile, and they are more interinstitutional. To say something, for instance, the University of Católica de Chile could have a program with the NER University, but there is something between the universities, not at the level of the central government, because the bachelor's degrees and studies directly. And of course, we are trying to develop this kind of contacts between universities. But again, against us is the distance, and sometimes the lack of knowledge between what the opportunities and what could be done. From the Indian side, there is the iTech programs, and at technical level, or different kind of programming, and but we have some grants from the Chilean institutions. So what we should do is trying to, I would say, put in a systemic way a list of what the offer is, and the information is there, but right now it's a little bit difficult to see in a simple shot. So what we are trying to do is to facilitate the access to the information of that kind of information, because we know that in Indian students to go and to explore countries in our region, and Chile is one of the countries that has been, taking interest for those people.
Certainly, that's the future. No, when countries exchange young people and students, that's a long way in establishing solid relationships between both countries. They become the ambassadors, in their own country when they go back.
Absolutely.
And they are really a very important asset. We are slowly reaching the end, although we have a few more questions which I would like to put. Actually, we will move now to our last section, which will be related to tourism, right? And I will, of course, I have one specific question here regarding the Indian film industry. It's from Smita Sahey. She's a student at Instituto Cervantes here in New Delhi. And there is a tendency, she's saying, that the Indian film industry is wooing several foreign countries to make productions for tourism purposes. We had with Spain a very famous movie that did a lot in fostering, in sending tourism to Spain. That was very famous movie, and it was a hit here. So Smita is asking, would Chile ever consider this and using, Bollywood to make a movie about Chile to promote Indian tourism there? And she's asking, what is the percentage of Indian tourists per year to Chile? And and I am packing here many questions in one, what Chile has to offer to India in terms of tourism?
Yes. Well, going to the first part of the question, in fact, yes, we have, in fact, some special team or department in our Chile institution, which is the one trying to export Chilean products. It is called Shooting in Chile. And the idea is to promote the film, use the country as a shooting country, trying to present our beauties, landscapes, realities in a movie. We know that sometimes a song or a movie or this kind of huge impact cultural products have a good, much better job that we diplomats can do, because if a movie has a success and the history is in Chile, I'm sure that a lot of people will be interested in going there and visiting the country. So we do have this Shooting Chile program, and again we are trying to make that a practice, and Bollywood industry, it could be of interest for us. Absolutely, absolutely. In terms of what Chile has to offer, well, I don't know if the majority of people participating in the webinar knows that, but Chile is a very special country in terms of shape. We place of a pencil because it is 4,200 kilometers long, but the weight is an average of 200 kilometers. So it's very long but very thin. That gives us
all the climates there, huh? I think.
Yeah, yeah. That gives a lot of different climates and landscapes. We have from the north, we have the desert. It's very dry, the driest in the world, in fact. We have the altiplano. Then we have going to the south, we have the climates. So with all that implies wines and fruits, and we have in the south, more south, we have a zone of lakes and rivers. In the extreme south, we have Patagonia with glaciers. We have fjords, and around the 4,000 kilometers, we have the Humboldt Stream, which is very cold, but gives us a lot of food and produce from the sea. So we have a lot of different landscapes and culinary products to offer to a tourist. So we encourage to discover the country. And also, it is a country where you will find only 20 million people, but more or less the size, 1.5 the size of France. So, which has more or less 17 million people. So you will see the density is very low. So it gives space, gives you nature, gives you unspoiled spots. And we have been trying since some time now to develop what we call the sustainable development tourism. So trying to preserve what is there and not to spoil it with damaging the areas. So Patagonia is very well known. San Pedro de Atacama is very well known. Not to mention Easter Island with all the studies of the Moais, which are also very well known. I'm sure a lot of about that. But all that is in Chile. So we can offer very interesting trips and combining food, culinary experience with natural wonders and some unspoiled places also. And also we can say that Chile is the door to Antarctica, and there is tourism in Antarctica as well. But again, with very environmental, a lot of environmental considerations. Not just.
Well, one last question is related to that, and I think it is easy to answer. It's also about tourism. This is it is about tourism also. It is from Jasmine Kaur from Delhi. He says, Chile is cheap for Indian tourists. A very easy one.
Yeah, well,
how expensive it is for an Indian tourist to go there?
Well, you will find from the 5-star hotel to the low budget accommodation. So it is cheap. Yeah, it is cheap in terms of what are you looking for. It is not an expensive. There are a lot of possibilities of doing very well priced tourism, and again, there are places that you will not find in another easily in another part of the world, like glaciers, very old glaciers. And of course, any traveler can find his budget there, from the luxury and expensive ones to the more convenient, and again having the same possibility of visiting nice places. So I wouldn't say it is particularly expensive to go to Chile. No.
Well, thanks very much. We are reaching the end of our webinar. There are some more questions, but we must be just closing up. Thanks very much. It's excellent. And you know that you have in Instituto Cervantes your own home. And
yes,
please,
thank you very much.
Use that to promote both education, culture, and tourism in Chile and whatever. We are very happy to have you with us. And I'm sure the students and all the attendants here have really enjoyed this broad picture of Chile. Anything to add?
Thank you for the opportunity, Oscar, you gave us. Thank you very much for the opportunity to share with the participants some ideas about Chile. If there is any question or any particular subject that somebody would like to go deeper on that, we will be very happy to respond directly, either with mail or telephone or something. Because we think that there is a lot of common points between the two countries, and we are here to develop these common points. And both countries are constantly trying to develop, to improve, to transform themselves. So in that, we can share a lot of mutual experiences, and we are happy with the more particular questions to answer that. So again, many thanks for this opportunity. And congratulations for organizing these webinars for our part of the world that sometimes is not very well known here for the interview.
Muchas gracias, entonces. Y hasta muy pronto.
Gracias. Gracias. Hasta luego.
Hasta luego.